Okay, hope you're doing well today. Slot 1 is the hardest position to be put in as a Dokkan unit, where a majority of the firepower and debuffing of an enemy boss is placed. Units being dubbed Slot 1 units are some of the most prolific titles a unit can be blessed with. Today, we'll go over the top 10 Slot 1 units in Dokkan history. Do keep in mind that, of course, these lists are carefully calculated through an intense algorithm, and let's get on with the list. Now, coming in at number 10, we have LR, AGL, Kale, and Caulifla. Now, back when they first came out, a mere 2 months after the 4th year anniversary, they were a buzzsaw, as far and away the most everything unit in the game, right? They were just the best unit in the game, by far. Now, the reason they were such a dominant Slot 1 unit is because they stacked defense on both 12 and 18 key super attacks, and they built up dodge as a part of their passive. That in conjunction with the fact that the hardest event in the game at the time, the OG Legendary Goku event, was a Universal Survival Saga enemy, and it was pure Saiyans the entire time. It just led them to potentially super attacking like 5 times per turn. And then all of that was building up their dodge chance, so like they'd have like a 66% chance to dodge, and then they'd quadruple super, and then their defense would get up to like just ridiculous heights. I mean, I believe they were the first unit in the entire game to like consistently or like somewhat realistically get to over 1 million defense. Like they were just a nuts character. That, and they led the best team in the game for a bit in the joined forces category, and they did really good damage, and they weren't like super limiting on how your team was built because you were going to run them with pure Saiyans anyway, and probably Universe 6 units to activate majority of their links, and they led joined forces. So it's just their design was basically perfect for their time, right? They had great links, they were on a plethora of categories, they were just really good, and I believe very fairly they were one of the top 10 best Slot 1 units in this game's history. But that's going to be Kale and Caulifla. They come in at number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Now, coming in at number 9, we have 3 units once again. They also came in on the best aging list, and it is STR Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, AGL Golden Frieza, and Int Hercule. They essentially all do the same thing, right? They just don't take damage, right? STR Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta's got 80% damage reduction for 10 turns. AGL Golden Frieza has 90% damage reduction, provided that his HP is 40% or more at the start of the turn. And then Int Hercule he starts at 50% damage reduction, and he can get up to 90% damage reduction. And then prior to his EZA, he's got a 50% chance to dodge. And then after his EZA, he can get up to a 60% chance to dodge with that super high damage reduction. I mean, these 3 are just really good, like Slot 1 units, right? Like you ran them specifically so they could take the punishment of Slot 1 because you wanted your other units who couldn't take that punishment to be in Slot 2, you know, to be strong defensively after they super attack, because it's easy to be good after you super attack. But these units, like for so long, right, like there was just no bosses that could hurt them. Like it took until the red zone meta to where these guys could finally be like touched and take significant damage. But that's going to be these 3, right? Int Hercule, AGL Golden Frieza, and STR Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. They come in at number 9. Moving on to number 8. Now, coming in at number 8 is a unit that is here for a similar reason, and that's AGL Golden Frieza, the LR version. Now, the reason this guy was so good is because he had 90% damage reduction at the start of turn with some really solid defense, but he lost damage reduction with each passing turn, even the turns that he wasn't there. And then he'd fully cap out around 30% damage reduction and some pretty decent defense to where he'd be decently tanky even after he lost all his damage reduction, provided that you activated his full passive. And the reason that this guy gets the nod over the number 9 spot is simply because this guy actually does damage too, right? Like Slot 1, the main portion of it is to be super strong defensively, but hey, damage does matter too, right? And obviously those 3 didn't do any damage in Slot 1. They were just there to take punishment. But I mean, obviously Golden Frieza did some really good damage, right? Like he had guaranteed additional super attacks in his passive. He had an active skill with a reasonable condition, and although it didn't really do any damage, like it's still something, right? He's on categories that desperately need Slot 1 gods like himself, and he's got some solid links for his teams. But all in all, that's going to be LR AGL Golden Frieza. He's going to come in at number 8. Moving on to number 7. Now, coming in at number 7, we got Physical God Goku, who was very good back in his heyday. Just a few short months ago, it just felt like this guy was just the best TUR. Even still. Like, I think it was arguable between him and the Dragon Fist Goku and Int Hirudegarn, who was really better. And of course, World Tournament Goku, who he spent a majority of his lifespan fighting with. for the position of best TUR. But the reason Physical God Goku is here is because he stacks attack and defense on his super attack, and then he creates his own orbs with his intro animation, provided that you have a basically full superclass team. And then with that, he'd get a 60% chance to dodge with the 3 key spheres, and then he'd launch a guaranteed additional super attack and guard with 6 key spheres, right? So he had 60% guard chance, guaranteed guard, and could potentially triple super attack while stacking, which led him to just be a better version of Tech Ultimate Gohan. Like, he's Tech Ultimate Gohan with guard, right? And a guaranteed additional super attack, provided that you got his orbs. Like, I mean, he locked down slot 1. And I think he was like a perfectly designed unit. Like, he led a very good team in Pure and Hybrid Saiyans. Obviously, that's going to be a good team. You didn't really need to transform him because his transformation was basically worthless. Like you could use it like as a killing shot, but it wasn't really anything all that special. And he had obviously dominant links, and he was on a plethora of categories. Like, Physical God Goku is just a very immaculately designed unit that Dokkan really, there's nothing to really complain about with the Physical God Goku. He's just perfect. He's going to come in at number 7. Let's move on to number 6. Now, coming in at number 6, we have LR Physical Janemba. Now, LR Physical Janemba came out during the part 2 of the Tenabata celebration after LR Tech Gogeta. And despite having absolute fodder super attack effects, right, he was still very, very strong. Notably, he gets guard as the first or second attacker in the turn. And what was very notable about this guy is that he was, I believe, the first unit in this game to actually get guard before he attacks in slot 1 while having this line of text saying that they guard in slot 1 or 2, right? And I believe that most people thought he was going to work like it would guard after he attacks, but no, Janemba actually guarded before he attacks as well, which was very, very crucial for him to be super good. And then you could build him up in slot 2 or 3, and sometimes you didn't have that luxury, but even without it, he would still be pretty solid. And once he got fully built up, he was very good. He also had a 50% chance of nullifying Ki Blast super attacks, and then this was when like Ki Blast super attacks were a majority of all enemies in this game, and then he just nullify that and take 0 damage. You know, he'd do that and then it just, you know, the little portal thing would open up and no, boom, 0 damage. Like, Janemba, he's just very like basic unit, but just very strong, right? He's got guard and he's got solid defense, and then he's got some super dominant links, right? Like, Janemba units have some of the best link sets in the game, right? They got links like Metamorphosis, Big Bad Bosses, Brutal Beatdown, you know, just some super dominant links. But the main thing that held Janemba back was that he just was not on a lot of categories. I believe he was on 3 categories when he first came out, and like, it was just, that was his weakness. But like, he was very, very good. Slot 1, good unit, very underrated for a majority of this guy's lifespan, I feel like, by the community. But that's LR Janemba. He's gonna come in at number 6. Let's enter the top 5. Now, coming in at number 5, we have Tech Caulifla and Tech God Goku. Some just super powerful units. I mean, we all know why they're here, right? Tech Caulifla's got guaranteed guard against Universal Survival Saga or Pure Saiyan enemies, and Tech God Goku's got guaranteed 77% damage reduction against movie bosses and Pure Saiyan category enemies, right? Like, I mean, they're just some of the better designed units ever. Tech Caulifla especially, like, if an enemy doesn't cancel dodge and it's a Universal Survival Saga or Pure Saiyan enemy, like, she can't take damage, so she's an easy run, like, right? It's free. And then Tech God Goku, he tanks a majority of attacks very well. I mean, he's starting to reach the point in his lifespan where he takes a significant damage, even with his damage reduction, even after super attacking. But for a long time, like a span of, like, it feels like multiple years, he's been a solid option. And especially during the early red zone meta, like, this guy is a must-have, basically, against the movie side of the red zone. And now there's a lot of hard movie stages, so I mean, he still has some good value, right? But I mean, not really much to say here. It's kind of a given with these guys, right? Tech Caulifla, Tech God Goku, they're just very solid slot 1 units. They have been for a while. And coming in at number 4, you got the creme de la creme, AGL UI Goku, the most noble and supreme form in all the universe, whose radiant glow places him at the pinnacle of all beings in existence, the truly transcendent one, the one above all. AGL UI Goku has just been that guy for so long, it feels like. Back when he came out during the 6th year anniversary, he was just dominant, 70% chance to dodge, solid defense, pretty good damage. And then when his damage aged out, the 70% chance to dodge, just as long as the enemy could be dodged, he was dominant. Like, he was just a good option to be ran. I mean, he was a dodge or die character, right? For after like bosses became hard enough where he could get cooked. But like, I mean, hey, that 70% chance to dodge, like people hated on it because, you know, they'd insist that UI Goku would just get them cooked. But hey, not me. For me, UI Goku was, he was wheeling and dealing. That 70% chance to dodge felt like a 99% chance to dodge. It felt like this guy never let me down prior to his EZA. And now that he's got his EZA, he's just like even better. He's just flawless, right? It feels super often where you enter a turn 77% or below to me, and then you just got that revive and it just feels so free. And then that animation plays where his animation's beautiful. Still so good. And obviously after his EZA, he builds up his defense with each dodge. He's got 77% chance to dodge. You know, he gets 7% more dodge chance, you know, 84, the 91, the 98, 100. I mean, he's just flawless, man. Like he's just perfect. And I don't even know how they're gonna age this guy out. Like if the enemy can be dodged, he's never gonna not be relevant. He's gonna age better than Evolution Blue Vegeta. I mean, honestly, you could argue him over Evolution Blue Vegeta now, like, right? Like, I mean, I don't think that's absurd. Like, hey, and maybe I will have him over. Like, shoot, I guess I should update my tier list, huh? But anyways, like UI Goku, right? Just like he's the epitome of a slot 1 unit. And you know, of course, he gets multiple turns of guaranteed 100% chance to dodge on his first turn and his first turn after he pops his revive. Like he's just really strong. Just a goated unit. And there's a reason why he's my favorite unit that's ever released in this game's history. But that's going to be AGL UI Goku. He's going to come in at number 4. Let's go on to the top 3. Now, coming in at number 3, you couldn't avoid him forever. It is, of course, Tech Ultimate Gohan. Run from him, dread him. Tech Ultimate Gohan arrives all the same. It's over, man. Like, you know, I mean, hey, man, there was a period of like 2 years where it's just like the new TUR details release. I've seen enough. Tech Ultimate Gohan's better. Greatly stacking attack and defense, plus guaranteed guard. It was too strong for the game for when he came out. Like he was unkillable. Like when this guy came out and like right after the 2020 worldwide download celebration with STR Super Vegito and Physical Buhan, I would argue that Tech Ultimate Gohan was a top 3 unit, unironically. Tech Ultimate Gohan is just that good. He was just that guy for so long. Like he didn't really start like sucking until like mid red zone meta, and you know, like when they were just doing like a bajillion damage turn 1 and he couldn't keep up. And you know, after his EZA now, like sure, he's gonna suck turn 1. There's just no a way around that. Once he gets stacking, now that he's got guaranteed additional super attacks, 70% chance to launch multiple additional super attacks. Like if he quadruple supers, like he's cooking. He's getting into this fast, man. Like he's getting, you know, ready to tank these super attacks very quick. And he is just a quintessential slot 1 unit. Tech Ultimate Gohan. And my GOAT. He was so perfect for so long. And now he's got to dominate EZA. Like he's my GOAT. Probably my second favorite unit in this game's history. Tech Ultimate Gohan's gonna come in at number 3. Let's move on to number 2. Now coming in at number 2 is maybe a bit of a surprise to most people, but it is LR Int Gallic Gun Vegeta and Trunks that came out for Tanabata of 2022 on JP. Now, the reason that Vegeta and Trunks were so good was, for one, they led the best team in the game for a good bit, right? The Bond of Parent and Child category is one of the best categories in the game and was a super strong team when they led it and were like, you know, a super good option to run. And then their super attack effects give them attack on defense on both, and their 18 key, they're stacking attack and defense. And then they have their entrance animation, which provided you have another Bond of Parent and Child category on attacking in the same turn as when they appear, which is like fodder easy. Like there's so many, just a bajillion good Bond of Parent and Child category allies. They get 2 keys, 70% defense, and then they get guaranteed guard for 5 turns. And then once they get hit, they built up key and defense up to 5 key and 75% defense and 35% crit chance to boot. And then they also got a further 70% attack and defense and guaranteed guard as the first attacker in the turn. And that 70% attack and defense would activate. It's like as soon as the turn starts. I believe it's calculated as a start of turn buff, which means they wouldn't be, you know, fodder weak before they attack. Like essentially, if you ran this guy, you know, these guys, LR, Gallic Gun, Vegeta, and Trunks, like properly, they essentially just couldn't take damage, right? Broly was Red Zone Broly, which was the hardest fight in the game when they came out, was just fodderized by these guys. Obviously, Omega Shenron was no match for him. Like they couldn't tank Omega's super attack because it would be too deep into the fight for them to have their guard from their entrance animation. And Omega always super attacks in slot 3 every other turn. But I mean, every other normal, all those normals, Broly, like just fodder, right? Tech Bojack of the Red Zone, of the movie Red Zone, was just fodder before this guy. Like they were a force to be reckoned with, and they're just super dominant. They couldn't take damage. They did really good damage, dude. Like their active skill gave them an active skill buff of 20% 20% defense. And on that rotation, all your allies just couldn't be hurt, right? Because they support, like, it's just busted, man. And the restriction on it is pretty solid, right? Like, it's turn 5, 50% or below. And then if all allies are future starting from turn 3, and future wasn't bad at this point. Like, it wasn't a great category, but it was still a solid category. They would do so much damage because they would stack attack. Like, they didn't do like as much as the 7th year anniversary LRs, but they did some respectable damage, and they got guaranteed crits, and you know, they stack, so they do good damage, and it's just perfect, right? They got a great link set. Not a bunch of teams, but they led the bond of parent-child category, which was just a busted category. Like, everything you think of when you need a powerful slot 1 unit, LR, Vegeta, and Trunks had it. They're just dominant when it comes to slot 1 back in their prime. And this is one of my favorite units to have ever released. This is exactly how I like units to be designed. Obviously, they fell off now because their guard and super powerful defensive abilities are only in slot 1. I believe that if they got them in either slot 1 or slot 3, they could still be solid, right? But this is just not a rotation unit anymore, but they were great back in 2022 for a good bit of time. I think they were very solid. And I feel like they're one of the more underrated pieces. But that's going to be LR, Vegeta, and Trunks, the Gallic Gun. They come in at number 2, but they're not number 1. And yeah, I feel like we all know who number 1 is. Coming in at number 1, it is the current best unit in the game. SGR, LRBs go on, just God. Like, you know, everything I said about LR, Vegeta, and Trunks can just apply to Beast Gohan, right? He leads the best team in the game by far. The superhero team is just wrecked. Like, this team is broken. He's got dominant super attack effects. He's got the chance to have 80% damage reduction. He's got guaranteed guard. He's got super high defense. He's got a taunt ability in his active skill. And then he can get like 1,000,000 defense. And then he also gives allies Q. He does it all, man. Like, he's perfect. Like, builds up crit chance when he gets hit, performs guaranteed additional super attacks. I mean, what do you want me to say, man? It's Beast Gohan. There's no really other option that could be for number 1. Like, I was thinking about having Vegeta and Trunks at number 1, but like, just no, you can't, dude. Beast is too dominant for those first 5 turns while he's got his intro animation up. And even after his entrance animation, like with his active skill, you pop it without his intro up or his like first 5 turns, super high damage reduction up. Like, he's still just dominant. I almost don't know how they're going to age a unit like this, but hey, it's Beast Gohan. He's going to come in at number 1, and yeah, he's going to run off my list. But let me know what you guys think. If you agreed with the algorithm's perfect flawless list, let me know if you think there was any snubs or if you think that the order of the list should have been different. But just know that, as always, if you disagree with the algorithm, you're wrong. But that's going to do it for me. Thanks for stopping by.